Good morning, everyone. This is Ted Murmagos, and I'm the Division Director at the Delaware Division of Child Support Services. And this is the January 2026 Child Support Connection. Happy New Year to all of you. So very pleased that we're able to continue to do this monthly Child Support Connection for all of you. And hope that as we continue to do this month after month, that we're able to help individuals with their child support situation. As I've said many times before, the highlight of these Child Support Connection monthly videos is really to be able to help folks, custodial and non-custodial parents, as it relates to their child support situation, as well as we have other stakeholders that are involved in the child support process. So we want to be able to certainly help those folks also. So as I do every month, I always like to start off with our division's mission statement, so that folks know what our employees here at Child Support in the state of Delaware, really believe in, and it's our backbone to what we do each and every day. I see we already have a question from Ms. Rashid. So there's a couple things I always have to do at the beginning of these Child Support Connections, and I'm going to go right to your question, because I always like to hit the questions right off the bat. So let me go through the mission statement. It's our mission at the Delaware Division of Child Support Services to deliver quality customer support by partnering with parents to improve the lives of their children and, of course, their families. This is achieved through obtaining accurate child support orders to meet the financial, medical, and emotional needs to promote family self-sufficiency and the best outcomes for families. So that's our mission statement here at Child Support in Delaware. And then I always like to mention this too, and I'll probably mention it a couple times over the next hour, is for folks that are viewing this either today or somewhere down the line. Please do not put any personal information in the chat or the comments section as it relates to, like your children's names or the other party involved in a child support case. We certainly want to, at all costs, protect confidentiality and all that kind of stuff. But we do certainly want to be able to answer questions. So let me go back up here. So Ms. Rashid has said in the comments section, my daughter's father was served during our custody case by the judge at court, and I still haven't gotten a court date. It's been months. We had court in July. Every time I call, they just tell me it hasn't been scheduled, and it's very frustrating. Okay, so thank you for the question, and I certainly agree with you, and I would be frustrated also. That's one thing for sure. What we can do for you is, and it may require, this is the other thing I always say to folks too. I know I have some of my employees also tuning in, and they will send me some information through a separate system that we have here at Child Support. I know they're probably trying to look your case up in our child support system, and will send me an email or will send me an instant message as it relates to the status of your case. But one of the things I want to make sure is, one, we can certainly check with the court. Child support employees, if we see that scheduling, and you're saying July, that's 5 months ago or 4 months ago, 5 months ago, so we can certainly reach out to the court and determine what the status is of the case being scheduled. and especially because he's been served, and he was served it sounds like they served him at family court, which is a great thing for us. But we can certainly um, look and reach out to the court about the status and why it's taking so long to schedule your particular case. Um, I just want to make sure. My suggestion is hang on, don't disconnect from the child support connection, and I'll see if I get a message from one of my employees over the next, 3 or 4 minutes, and I can give you some further direction. If I can't give you an answer, my suggestion would be to send us a DM and put your case number in the DM. Don't put it in the comments section, but put it in a DM to us and with your contact information. I always like to make sure we have a good telephone number or and an email address. We do some stuff by email, so ask that you put that in the DM to us. But let me see if I get an email or outreach. Yep, I have one of my employees just messaged me. They're looking into it right now. So don't go anywhere. I'm going to go on to another question because I see there's been some other comments in the comments section. Miss Baynard says it took 2 years for a court date for me. And so I just want to make sure people understand the process. When someone is being brought to court for the first time, it does take a little bit of time to get individuals served for that initial court hearing. Just as Ms. Rashid said, the other party in her case was actually physically served at court. But in other cases, we actually have to go and knock on doors and have somebody go and actually physically serve somebody. And if folks try to avoid being served, it can create some complications. So that's why I'm always when I'm on video doing these child support connections, I'm always trying to appeal to the non-custodial parent. It's so much better to just accept the service, get to that court date, and it will save you in the amount of arrears that may potentially be added to your case because you tried to avoid being served. It's in your best interest as a non-custodial parent to get into court as quickly as you possibly can so that it's not going retroactive. So I'm always suggesting that to non-custodial parents. And then Ms. Baynard has a question, and she says, how are you all working IWOs? So that's a income withholding order, also known as a wage withholding or a wage attachment, for out of state, having the other state implement them. So two things can happen here. And this gets a little in the weeds, but I'm going to try to do my best to explain it. If a non-custodial parent resides in another state, but there's a Delaware court order, we can, as long as it's a Delaware court order, and if an individual lives or works in another state, we can automatically send a wage withholding from Delaware to that employer. But that's one way. If a non-custodial parent moves and lives in another state, and we cannot get them to comply with the Delaware court order, we may ask the other state. So if he lived in Delaware and moved to Maryland, we may ask the state of Maryland to create a case on behalf of our Delaware client. And in that type of situation, Maryland would take it to through their judicial process, and then get permission from the Maryland court to send a wage withholding to that employer through getting the Delaware order registered in Maryland for enforcement, and then being able to send a wage withholding to that employer. Now, if, for instance, if you call us, you live in Delaware, and you say, the other party lives in Maryland, and he's working at such and such a place, we can let the state of Maryland know, hey, we heard from our client, the non-custodial parent works at this company in the state of Maryland. It's your case now for enforcement, Maryland. Can you send a wage withholding to that company? And they would do that for us. There's several ways we communicate with other states. Some of it has to do with paper, sending them a letter that says, hey, we have letters in our system, in our computer system. We hit a couple keys and we can send that letter that says, hey, he's working there. Sometimes we call Maryland and say, hey, this is where he works, can you send a wage attachment? And then we have some electronic communication with other states. And we send them an electronic communication that says, we heard from our client, he works or she works at this location, can you send an order of income withholding? And they will go ahead and do that for us. Obviously, the goal is to get that employer to start deducting funds from that person's paycheck, and then sending it through the Maryland Child Support Office, and then they send it to Delaware, and then we would send it to our client. So there's a couple ways. If it's a Delaware order and the person is complying with that Delaware order, and we don't need the state of Maryland to get involved or the state of Pennsylvania, we could send a wage attachment from Delaware to that employer. It's only when the non-custodial parent stops participating in the child support process where we say, Maryland, Delaware needs help enforcing our Delaware order. Can you register it in your state for enforcement? And then they will go ahead and take the lead. But it's always encouraged that the custodial parent reach out to Delaware in this case, and we will reach out to the other state. Or send a wage withholding directly to the other state. Income withholding order, wage attachment. There's a couple of names for it. I hope that helps. Now, let's say Maryland sends a income withholding order to that employer, and they're not complying with it. Maryland will take the lead on reaching out to that employer to say, what's going on? We haven't gotten a payment. Or say the non-custodial parent leaves that place of employment, the state of Maryland, because they've registered the Delaware order, will move forward with other enforcement activities, or taking the person back to court. I did get a message from one of my employees. I want to look real quick. Okay, so I just looked real quick. Sorry about that, folks. So I'm going back to Miss Rashid. We are going to have to do a little bit more digging. My coworker, my colleague here at the Child Support Office sent me a message. She's seen your case. She's looking at it, but it is going to require reaching out to the family court. So what I would ask for you to do is to still send us a DM, because I want to make sure we have a good phone number for you and a good email address, and put your case number in it, and we'll be in touch with you within the next day or two about our success with reaching out to the family court here in Delaware. Family court they're the responsible party for scheduling these court hearings, and the one thing I can say to folks is it does take a little bit of time for them to schedule the court hearings, 1 or 2 months, give or take. But if people are waiting 3 or 4 or 4 months or longer to hear from them, and you're a client of ours here at Child Support, reach out to us. Let us do a little bit of digging to see what we can do to find out why it's taking so long to schedule your case for court. So go ahead, Ms. Rashid, and send us some information that I've asked for, and we'll be in touch with you in the next day or two. but my coworker has located your case and is doing a little bit more research and is going to contact the court about getting your case scheduled for a family court hearing and getting some more information to you. Okay, so the next question, and I love these questions, and as I've said, and I'll try not to ramble on here, but as I've said in previous child support connections, this is why we do it. I like to share information about what child support is doing, but I drop everything when I start seeing questions in the comments section. So keep them coming, and if not, if you can't do it for this one and you're watching this on our YouTube channel, which I need to start promoting, you can always come back next month and we'll be here to take your question. Okay, so let's see. I just want to, I'll come back up to Miss Lynn in a second. Miss Baynard, just a follow-up to her question about the IWO, the income withholding order. Should I ask my caseworker at child support to request the enforcement? You absolutely should do that, especially if another state is involved, or regardless, you should reach out to your worker. If you know information about where the non-custodial parent is employed and you want us to send an order of income withholding, reach out to your worker and we can help you do that. Or if you're saying, I don't know where he's working, but he lives in Pennsylvania, we can find out from Pennsylvania what kind of enforcement activity is going on as it relates to your case. Okay. So I'm going back to Miss Lynn. Let's see here. Why were my funds released to me on Friday, but still don't have them as of this morning? So that's not that's not unusual to me. I'm not like overly like, oh my God, you don't have those monies yet. Especially if they were just released on Friday. So. A couple things, and this is a great question because this gives me an opportunity to talk about how we here at Child Support send monies to custodial parents. One is through the U.S. Bank issued Relia card. Two is by monies come in and they go directly into someone's credit union account or their bank account through direct deposit. And then the third way is we still send a few checks out to custodial parents. Now, having your payments sent through direct deposit or to the U.S. Bank issued Relia card, that really is the most efficient and fastest way for our custodial parent to receive their payments. So we're always encouraging, and it's actually Delaware law, that if you have the ability to get a bank account or to get a credit/debit card, you have to do that so that we can send your payments to you electronically. It's the safest way to get your child support payments, and it's the fastest way. And it usually does take about 2 business days from when the payments hit the system to be showing up in someone's bank account. Now, because of the holidays, I'm not overly concerned with the fact that you may not be seeing that payment in your bank account or in your on your U.S. Bank issued Relia card, so I'm not overly concerned that you're not seeing it yet. If you go through today and tomorrow, and maybe one more day after that, you're not seeing it, then I'd be a little bit more concerned. And I see there's more comments in the comment section about your situation. So I'm going to kind of take a little peek here to see what other people are saying. Because one of the things I definitely want to do is correct folks if they're putting in, and this is why it's probably not a good idea. Maybe I should say this, also add this to my list of things to say at the beginning of these child support connections. It's probably not a good idea for other folks to intervene and try to answer the questions, because it does add somewhat a layer of confusion to the process. So let me just I know that I saw some folks commenting a little bit, and I want to make sure that that the information that's being shared is correct. So let's see here. Our funds held up due to the holidays. So yeah, so because of state offices were closed over the Christmas holiday, and we were closed on New Year's Day. So in some cases, it does create a minor backlog, but we're pretty efficient that once the payment gets here, getting that payment processed and out the door. So, I'm like I said, I'm not overly concerned that you're not seeing it yet. And my suggestion would be to, and I'm not seeing how you get your payments in the comments section, whether it's through direct deposit or whether we're sending you a check or something along those lines. Yeah, so I would I would give it another day or two, quite honestly. Like I said, I'm not overly concerned that you're not seeing it yet. I can tell you, this is the other thing I can tell you, 65% of all child support that we receive here in the state of Delaware comes electronically into our office. From an employer sending it to us electronically, from another state that's sending us child support payments, that comes electronically. So when we get those payments electronically, the turnover is extremely fast. It takes little manual, human intervention to process those child support payments. We still, of course, get a ton of checks, money orders, payments in the mail, payments at our drop box here in Newcastle County. Now that takes a little bit longer to process, but those payments we're very efficient. So efficient that if we go to the post office this morning, those payments are pretty much processed by the child support office by noon, give or take, a couple hours each day, and those funds go out the door. So I'm kind of thinking that it's because of the holidays that we've experienced and that kind of thing. So I don't want to forget Miss Lynn. I know. Oh yeah, that was Miss Lynn. Okay, so we were able to answer your question. But Miss Lynn, like I said, I would give it another day or two, and then if by Tuesday at 4:30 you're not seeing it, then I would give us a call and let us do a little research. Yeah. Let's see here. Miss Fernandani. Okay. I have a question. Child support had closed my son's case, but the court still continues to be open. What should we do? I am the grandmother and have guardianship of the kids. Dad is incarcerated, and the case is still open with mom's name, but this is only the court. But the child support office closed the case. Can you help? I have a question. Child support has closed my son's case, but the court still continues to be open. The court, or maybe it's the court order continues to be open. What should we do? I'm the grandmother and have guardianship of the kids. Dad is incarcerated, and the case is still open with mom's name, but this is only the court. The child support office closed the case. Can you help? And I've already received a message from my coworker. Okay. And what they're saying is if you could send us a message, an instant, a DM, a personal message. We cannot find your case number in the child support system, and that's not unusual. Don't panic. Sometimes when folks have different names, married names versus maiden names, that kind of thing. So she's having a little difficulty finding your case in the child support system. So if you can send us a DM after we conclude today's child support connection, we can take a closer look at your case and actually have someone get in contact with you. And then when you do send us a message, just like I said to other folks today, to Ms. Rashid, can you make sure you put your phone number, your case number, and an email. If you have an email address, I love using email, and I'm trying to get my coworkers to use it just as much as I am. So you may get communication from email. So if you could send us that DM, that would be helpful so we can locate your case and actually have someone reach out to you with next steps on what's actually happening. Thank you for all these questions. I really appreciate it. Let me see here. I'm getting a little bit. I'm gonna double check, make sure I'm not missing anyone. The problem is, okay, Miss Baynard was saying the problem is he is promoting a business with no active business license for Pennsylvania, and he's hiding funds. Yeah, it's, it does become problematic when we're trying to enforce child support cases, and this really is not just for Delaware. This is something that across the country we're dealing with, is when people work under the table, when they don't go and get a business license, and they're operating a business, when there's no oversight for individuals to be able to say, yeah, this is him over here. Let's suspend that license, or let's go get some information from our Division of Revenue about what they're earning and that kind of thing. So it does create a little bit of a challenge for child support offices. And then I'm seeing, let's see here. Ms. Berryman. I've called several times regarding non-payment, requested the worker calls me back several times as well. There's no court date for non-payment, nor had a worker called me back. And you know what? This is another reason why I like to do these child support connections, because I could send anybody here to do this, but I like to do it because I like to hear. I don't want to say I like it, but when I hear that folks such as Ms. Berryman are having problems with being, getting in contact with a worker, our employees aren't calling folks back, we can actually look into the case notes and see, because we always tell our employees that, you need to put it in the case note. If you've tried to call somebody back and got a voicemail, we want to see that in the case notes. So this is also a good opportunity for me and my coworkers to see what's going on with folks, individuals, individual cases, and why why are we should be calling you back to give you information, or to at least tell folks what we know and don't know about the case. So I'm definitely going to make sure we look at it to see what we can find. So let's see here. I know I did get a message from my employee on this one too. Okay, so my coworker looked at your case, Ms. Berryman, and it does say that our worker did try to reach out to you a couple times and was unable to get a hold of you. And it has been suggested that you reach out to our customer service unit. And I'm going to give you their phone number at 302-577-7171. 302-577-7171. And we do have an update on your case as of December 16th. So when you call and speak to a child support specialist, you can refer to the fact that you're tuned into the Child Support Connection, and that you were given information that there is an update on your case, and they will be able to provide that to you directly. And so I'm hoping that will be helpful. And there are notes in the system that they did try to reach out to you and did not have success. So go ahead and call us. The other thing too is and I'm seeing comments pop up here where Miss Lynn talks about, and this is exactly where I was going, our child support portal, also known as our customer website, customer portal. If you go to my.delaware.gov, my.delaware spelled out .gov, create a username and password. You can then pull over, I don't know how to say it, but pull over the customer portal, the child support customer portal. You create a separate username and password, and you can have access to various pieces of your child support case. You can view an account statement and see if a payment came in. You can email your worker and ask them a question. If you don't like waiting on hold for our customer service unit, you can go through the portal and reach out to your worker, and they can communicate with you through the portal. You can provide us updated address information, updated employer information, and we'll be able to have that kind of communication with you. So, Ms. Lynn, I appreciate that you're using the portal. And I also see that you have the U.S. Bank issued Relia card. Even me knowing that even makes me more confident that if there's a payment that's distributed to your child support case, you should see it within a day or two. If you go in 3 days and not seeing that payment, I would reach out to somebody, because the Relia card is extremely, our relationship with U.S. Bank, the Relia card, extremely efficient. So I like I said, it's going to be there. And I think the holidays may have caused a blip somewhere along the way, as far as a little bit of a delay than what you may be used to or used to seeing. And I'm just going here. Let's see. Yeah. So thank you for using the portal. I'm always trying to encourage people to use the portal, especially I always use the example. You don't have to come to our child support office to get an account statement. You can print it from home. You can access that portal and print that account statement from home, and it saves time and energy and all that kind of stuff. Nobody likes waiting on hold. I don't like waiting on hold either. So, always encouraging folks to go to that customer portal. And I think, Ms. Dior, that kind of answers your question too. I think you're talking about the portal. How do I see that information? my.delaware.gov, my.delaware spelled out .gov. Create a username and password, and then go ahead and pull down that child support portal. And then next month, come back and let me know. Did you do it? How easy was it? Was it successful? Do you like that better than waiting on hold? I'd love to hear that information. Let's see here. How often do you do these lives? It's so helpful instead of sitting on hold for 45 minutes. Thank you. That's what this is all about. Every Monday, the first Monday of every month, from 11:30 to 12:30. Now, I've had a couple scheduling conflicts over the last several months. I've got a kind of a new meeting that's kind of bumped this a little bit, and I'll always send out information. But I can guarantee you this: once a month, I will be doing the live child support connection. but it's always been scheduled for the first Monday of every month from 11:30 to 12:30. And I do that specifically between 11:30 and 12:30, so folks who are at work and they're on their lunch break, they can go to their car, log into, sit there and eat their lunch and listen to the Facebook Live events. And I'm always encouraging if you know a non-custodial parent who is looking for information about their child support situation, or wants to know more about child support, this is a safe space for them to ask questions, learn a little bit about child support in Delaware and how we can help them, and help them understand what's going on with their child support case. So let's see here. Thank you. I've sent an email as well and was told. Okay, great. Thank you, Ms. Boehner. I appreciate that. Appreciate you caring as well as taking the time to do it. You got it. Let's see here. They're monthly, I believe. Yep. I gave them my update. Great. I think I've gotten everyone. I did see a message from my coworker. So if Miss Lynn and Miss Dior are still with us, if you want to send us your case numbers, my coworker said she'd take a look at it and reach out to you. We can get back to you after. But I'm still comfortable. I really am. I'm still comfortable that if you're not seeing a payment and you know that something was logged late last week to your child support case, that it's going to be there. It's going to be there. I'm extremely confident, and I'm hoping that I'm assuring you that if you know you've seen it on the portal, and it's like a standard payment that you normally get. It's not like a tax intercept payment or something along those lines. It's just a normal, regular weekly payment, or bi-weekly payment from an employer or something along those lines. I mentioned tax intercept because in some situations we do and are required by federal law to hold tax intercept payments, that federal IRS refund payments, because if the other party has a spouse, they are entitled to their portion of the refund. It does happen quite often, but if it's just a regular payment that we've received from an employer or something like that, it'll show up on your U.S. bank issued Relia card pretty consistently, really consistent. So I'm just thinking the holidays may have put a little blip in that process. So let's see here. Can a parent receive child support if the parent makes more than the parent? Let's see here. Can a parent receive child support if the parent makes more than the parent that makes less? So the simple answer to that is yes, because both parents are required to support the child. The real question will be what the court determines that the child support obligation is going to be. So they will perform the child support calculation. Both parents provide their financial information, and then they determine who has the child the most, because it's really about where does the child reside, how often with both parents, as well as what those parents make. But yes, I mean, the person that doesn't make as much, just because they don't make as much doesn't mean they're not required to support the child. The real question becomes what the calculation determines that person's obligation is. And it's based off of financial information. But you'll never see a situation, unless the person is incarcerated maybe, where the courts would say you're not required to pay anything. And then Ms. Dior has asked, does child support automatically end when my son turns 18? So the vet's really talking about the age of emancipation. And child support here in the state of Delaware would end if when the child turns 18, if they have graduated from school, from high school. If the child is 18 but still in high school, then it then converts to the and I've seen this, to the actual date the child graduates from high school. So if they turn 18 in April, but they don't graduate from high school until June, the age of emancipation now becomes the date they graduated from high school in June. Now, if the child is still in high school and they've turned 19, that is when all child support will end. So it's 18 unless they're still in high school, then it becomes the graduation date from high school. Unless they turn 19 before graduating, 19 is the final cutoff. Now, I'm going to do a quick run through of the comments. I really appreciate there was 29 comments in the first half hour of the Child Support Connection. That is fantastic. I think that almost, I think, will break a record. I want to run through them real quick. So I want to make sure I didn't miss anyone, which I have been known to do from time to time. I just want to make sure I got it. Oh, just give me a second here. Just want to make sure. And we'll go back after this. I got, like I said, I got a couple of my coworkers. We'll go into the personal messages of the direct messages, and we'll go ahead and gather all of the information so we can make sure people are contacted for follow-up that was needed. Yep. Okay, I think I got everybody. Yeah. Yeah, the only time you'll see that funds have to be held up is if there's a tax intercept and the non-custodial parent is currently married and his or her spouse is entitled to a portion of their tax refund. And that makes sense. That makes sense that his or her current spouse is entitled to their portion of the refund. So we are required to hold those funds for minimally 6 months. So there's actually a couple of things, and I'm going to continue to monitor the comment section to make sure that I address any new comments or questions that come in. I wanted to talk a little bit about a couple of things that are going on here at Child Support. First and foremost, and we've already talked a little bit about the Relia card today, and that's, like I said, one of the ways that we send child support payments out to custodial parents. And one of the things that I want to mention is it's so important that folks use their Relia card. When a payment comes in, we send that payment to the Relia card, and then that money can be used any way that the custodial parent decides to use those funds. And the thing about it is that U.S. Bank, who's our contracted vendor that we use for that service, if folks don't use that card on a regular basis, if they don't use that card, I believe it's over a 5-year period, the U.S. Bank will start to escheat those funds to the state where the party lives. So I'm here, I've been told to ask folks to encourage folks to use the Relia card at least minimally a couple times a year to let U.S. Bank know, hey, I'm still here, I'm still using these monies. Don't let them escheat those funds to the state. That's your money. You should be using that. So don't let the money on those cards sit dormant, because you don't want it, you don't want it escheated to the state. It's so important. So I just want to encourage people to do that. We just recently have been contacted by U.S. Bank, and there is quite a bit of money, over $100,000, I think, that's going to be escheated, and we want to avoid that from happening. So I know, and I've heard this from other folks too, that, hey, I want this money to be for my daughter when she goes to college. I want to be able to give her that card and she can use it for her education and that kind of thing. That's all. That's great. That's really great. We support that kind of thinking. However, you don't want that money to be escheated, and then you got to jump through all of those hoops to get that money back. Just want to encourage folks that if you have a Relia card, that even a bank account, if you have a bank account where we're sending monies to, and you want that money to be for their first car, or used for their education, always encouraging folks, you gotta show a transaction every once or twice to let the banking institution know you're still around and those funds are actually being used. The other thing, and I'm actually looking at my emails real quick, I wanted to mention, is related to license suspension. And license suspension, I've said this before, is one of the most I'd say frequent and is one of the more important enforcement tools that we have here at Child Support. Now, we send out tons of letters every year saying that we're going to suspend a license. In Delaware, we can suspend a business license, driver's license, a professional license, or a hunting and fishing license. And we send out a letter to non-custodial parents. And the letter says, if you don't reach out to us within 20 days, we're going to send another letter to that licensing institution to say, go ahead and suspend the license. If someone on a child support case who's required to pay child support is in arrears of $3,500 and has not made a payment in 60 days, they're going to get that letter. And of course, they got to have a license. If they don't have a license, there's nothing we can do about that. But what they do is they get that letter, and guess what they do? They don't open it. They throw it away. And so I'm always encouraging folks, if you get a letter from us, number one, any kind of a letter, open it up. Even from the family court, I encourage folks, it's so important to not disregard those letters. Number two, if you get that letter about your license, come in and talk to us before that 20 days is up. Because if that 20 days hits, we send that letter and the wheels are in motion to suspend the license. So, it's so important to reach out to us because we will work with folks. We will work with the non-custodial parents. We expect in most cases a lump sum payment. The policy says someone is to make a lump sum payment of 2 months, 60 days. They haven't made a payment in 60 days. We want 2 months worth of your child support obligation. But we understand, I say to my employees, look, there's child support cases in our system that even I couldn't pay 2 months of a lump sum payment on. It's ridiculous. So we work with non-custodial parents, but there is an expectation that they're going to make a good faith lump sum payment of some kind. And then, if they're working, tell us where they're working. We want to know where we can send an income withholding order and start to get regular payments in the door. and then we'll go ahead and give the license back. We'll go ahead and give the license back. But we always are telling non-custodial parents, if you don't make a payment again, it's going to just put you back into the license suspension process. So you got to make a payment every month consistently. You got to make your child support payments, or your case is going to be resubmitted to the license suspension process. So we'll work with non-custodial parents. Now you're all asking, like, what is he getting? What is he getting at here? So I always like to tell this story too, because this is another point where outreach exposed an area, a weakness in the child support process that we tightened up. A couple years ago, I went and did a town hall meeting with some non-custodial parents, and a non-custodial parent stood up and he said, "Look, a couple months ago, I got pulled over on Route 95 by the state police or county police, and they said, they ran his license or whatever. He got pulled over for something else, speeding or something else, traffic infraction. They pulled his license, did a search. His license had been suspended 5 years before. We suspended it like 5 years ago, and he'd been driving on a suspended license, but he didn't know. And guess what? He'd been making payments. Sometimes, and I've heard this from non-custodial parents, they wake up, and they say, I got to get back on track. And he said, I've been making payments, and I didn't know my license was even suspended. I took his information, came back to the office, looked him up, and lo and behold, he had been making payments for 2 years. So, we said we got to do something about this. How many more cases in our system have we suspended their license years ago, and they're now making payments, full payments, regular payments every month? And it was like that first year, it was like 1,200 individuals we gave back their license. It was like 95 or 96% of the people on that list got their license back because they were making payments on a regular basis. I mean, that's incredible to me. Now, they still had to pay the fee at the Division of Revenue or at the DMV, but we were able to give them their license back, and we were happy to do it. So every year now we do that. We run a list of all the individuals who have their licenses suspended, and are they making regular payments. We have our child support specialist research the case for us. And for 2025, we just completed our latest license suspension review, and there were a total of 161 licenses that we reviewed that were suspended. Of the 161, we gave back 153 of them. And those individuals, that 153, are going to be getting a letter from us that says we've reinstated your license. Go to the DMV, go to the Division of Revenue, go to DNREC and get your license reinstated. And we're happy to do that. It's 95%. So we're gonna, we continue to do this every year, and really grateful that we can do it, because the last thing we want to is a non-custodial parent to get pulled over and then have to deal with law enforcement over a suspended license that technically we should give back to them. So just really grateful that we can continue to do that project. It was another thing. It was eye-opening. It was a learning experience, and that dude that I spoke to all those years ago, he was right. He was right. He was making those payments on a regular basis, and we were able to give his license back to him. So, and that's all because of that town hall meeting that we were able to speak to that group of individuals. And going to those town hall meetings, someone in my position here at Child Support, it can be a very difficult venue, obviously a difficult situation to hear the stories of these non-custodial parents who, in some cases we get, look, we're not naive. There are some individuals who are just never going to pay. They're going to hide, fight, to avoid paying their obligation. But there are a bunch of individuals that either have gotten back on track, are on track, or want to get on track. And some of those conversations are difficult to hear, but we hope and we use those situations because we're still out there doing town hall meetings and doing health fairs and talking to custodial and non-custodial parents. And the goal really is to help individuals support their children. And I've said this before. It's not our goal here at Child Support to have non-custodial parents pay their child support and then not be able to support themselves. That's not good for anyone. We want individuals to be able to support themselves, support their children, pay their child support, and we want to help them do that, whether it's helping them find better employment opportunities, helping them look for education or training track that they can take. We certainly want to, and we have the ability with our Delaware Fatherhood Program, our relationship with employment and training at the Department of Labor. We can refer people to the Department of Labor. They have what they call American Job Centers. So if you're a custodial parent, you're a non-custodial parent, and you're looking for better employment, you're looking for new employment, you're unemployed and want help finding employment, or guess what, you need a pair of work boots or some other type of equipment, unemployment, employment and training at the Department of Labor through their American Job Centers can help you gather that, get that information. It's a huge, awesome resource, and I would encourage folks to look into that. Well, we are getting close to the end of the first Child Support Connection of 2026. I want to thank all of the comments, all of these great questions, all of these great comments. The only thing I always wish is I could help more people right here and now without having to get back with you at a later date. But sometimes we got to do it that way so that we can get you good information about your child support case. Remember our customer service unit telephone number, 302-577-7171. My.delaware.gov is also a resource. Go ahead and pull down the customer portal. And then one of the things I said that I needed to do more of, I'm going to start doing it more here, is we have a YouTube page, a YouTube channel. Please go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Facebook only lets us keep these videos up for 30 days. And then we have to download them and then upload them to our YouTube channel. So if you go to Delaware Child Support Services YouTube, you'll find us, Delaware Child Support Services. And you'll see all of the videos. We may be missing a few because we are late to start moving things over, but I encourage folks to check out our YouTube channel. Well, Happy New Year, everyone. Please stay safe. And I look forward to seeing you next month. It looks like it may be on February 2nd. If it's not on February 2nd, it'll either be February 3rd, which is the Tuesday, or it will be February 9th, which is the next Monday. And I'm thinking more likely the 9th, keeping it on a Monday. So we will see you in February. Happy New Year, everyone, and take care.